You will not always know the moment it happens. That is the first thing to understand about how an INFJ falls in love. There is rarely a lightning strike, rarely a dramatic realization across a crowded room. For you, love does not usually arrive. It accumulates quietly in layers you do not notice until one day you look up and realize someone has become woven into the fabric of your inner world. And even then, you might not say the word yet, not out loud, not even to yourself. If you are an INFJ, the way you fall in love is one of the most misunderstood things about you, often by the person you are falling for, and sometimes even by yourself, because the signs are not the ones the world has taught us to look for. There is no obvious pursuit, no dramatic gesture, no public declaration. Instead, there's a quiet gathering of attention, a slow turning inward, where someone becomes the subject of a private, ongoing conversation you have with yourself. Let's give this experience a name. What you are doing is not having a crush. It is something closer to what psychologists call interior attachment, a bond that forms first in the internal world, long before it is expressed in the external one. And to understand why it happens this way for you, we have to talk about how your mind actually works. Carl Jung, who first mapped the cognitive functions that later became MBTI, described introverted intuition, the dominant function of the INFJ, as a kind of inner perception. It does not gather information from the surface of things. It gathers meaning, patterns, undercurrents. When you meet someone who matters, your mind does not simply register their face or their words. It begins to build an impression of who they are underneath, their essence, their inner shape, the person behind the person. This process is slow, it is layered, and once it begins, it does not stop. So when an INFJ falls in love, what is actually happening is this. Someone has become interesting enough to your intuition that it will not let them go. Your mind returns to them, turns them over, studies them, not obsessively, but quietly in the background, the way a river shapes a stone. And you may not even realize this is happening until you notice how often they appear in your thoughts. That is the first silent sign. You think about them when nothing prompts it. You are washing dishes, or walking home, or falling asleep, and there they are. Not in a performative way, not in a way you would post about, just present. A quiet companion in your inner world, occupying more space than you have given anyone in a long time. The second silent sign is that you begin to notice details, not just what they say, but how they said it, the way their voice changed when they mentioned their mother, the pause before they answered a question about their future, the way their eyes moved when they were tired. You collect these small observations without meaning to. Your mind archives them, and later, when you are alone, you find yourself replaying them, not to analyze, but to understand. Because for you, understanding is love's first language. Before you can love someone, you have to see them, really see them. And your seeing is not passive. It is an act of deep attention, one of the most intimate things you offer another person, even when they have no idea you are offering it. The third silent sign is protective silence. You do not tell anyone, not right away, not your closest friends, not the person themselves, because what you feel is still forming, and speaking about it too soon would collapse it, like opening the oven too early on something delicate. You are not hiding, you are protecting. The researcher Elaine Aron, who spent decades studying sensory processing sensitivity, found that highly sensitive people, a group that heavily overlaps with INFJs, process emotional information more deeply and more slowly than others. They need time before they can name what they feel, and they are especially cautious about emotions that could destabilize their inner equilibrium. Love destabilizes. Love reorganizes your inner world around another person, and your system knows this. So it moves carefully. It waits. It watches. It confirms. This is why an INFJ can be falling in love for weeks, sometimes months, before saying a single word about it. Not because you are afraid, not because you are playing games, but because your feelings are still traveling from the deep part of you to the part that speaks. The fourth silent sign is the shift in your energy around them. You are usually private, selective with your presence, but with this person, you find yourself opening a little at first, then more. You share thoughts you would not share with most people. You show them the strange corners of your mind, the books you love, the half-formed ideas you usually keep to yourself. For an INFJ, letting someone into your inner world is not a small act. It is one of the truest signs that something is happening. And yet, you may still be the only one who knows, because you do not show love the way the world expects. You do not chase. You do not perform. You show love by making space, by remembering, by asking the question no one else thought to ask, by being present in a way that is quiet but total. The fifth silent sign is that you begin to imagine their future, not yours with them necessarily, but theirs. You find yourself thinking about what would be good for them, what they need, who they could become. Your care becomes forward-looking, almost tender in its distance. This is something Daniel Batson, who spent his career studying empathy, described as effective perspective taking, the ability to feel another person's experience as if from the inside. INFJs do this constantly, and when you fall in love, this ability turns fully toward one person. You're not just feeling with them, you are feeling for them. It is one of the most intimate forms of love that exists, and it is almost invisible from the outside. Which brings us to the hardest part of loving as an INFJ, because your love is so internal, so slow, so carefully protected. The person you are falling for may not know. They may sense something, they may feel your attention, but they may also miss it entirely. They may be waiting for a sign in a language you do not speak. And this is where many INFJs get hurt, not because their love was wrong, but because it was never translated. If there is one thing to take from this, let it be this. Your way of loving is real. It is deep. It is one of the rarest and most attentive kinds of love a person can offer. But at some point, when you are ready, when it is safe, when your system has settled, the inner love has to find its outer voice, not to prove itself, but to give the other person the chance to meet you where you are. You do not have to rush. There is no urgency here, but when the moment comes, let yourself say something, a small thing, a true thing, because love that stays entirely inside is love that no one else gets to hold, and you deserve to be held too. If this gave you language for something you have felt but never named, stay a while. There is more to explore here. This is a quiet place for deep minds.